Ladies and gentlemen, the unholy alliance that's keeping Washington elites awake at night has officially formed. President Trump and Elon Musk, two men who were never supposed to share power, are now working together to dismantle decades of government bloat. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is already uncovering billions in waste. And how are Democrats responding? By hiring protesters. That's right, a Soros-funded group has been caught red-handed paying people to oppose government efficiency. Think about that for a second. Meanwhile, a federal judge caught on tape ranting against Trump is now blocking the president from firing corrupt bureaucrats. The same people who've been working against America's interests for years are now hiding behind judicial robes. But here's the real story. The establishment isn't just afraid of Trump anymore. They are terrified of you finding out what they're doing. And as Trump and Musk expose government waste, you should know about another revolutionary breakthrough. A 2024 study shows collagen dramatically improves skin health, just as DOGE improves government efficiency. Women taking this multi-collagen formula report fewer wrinkles and firmer skin, like Trump's team exposing corruption. The science-backed formula reveals your true potential. It features 5 essential collagen types that work together, similar to how Trump and Musk are working to transform America. While they clean up Washington, you can rejuvenate your appearance. Claim your 51% discount today at healthwithgary.com. It's linked below before this special offer expires. Now we're going to go back in time. Yes, there he is. Barack Obama himself. Where were the hired protesters then? Barack Obama said, "We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending. These are important steps that can save taxpayers billions of dollars." And the fun fact is that Barack Obama is responsible for the office that became DOGE. Let's take a flashback before we get into the good stuff.
Secretary, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job.
Look at that. Cutting waste and promoting efficiency. November 9th, 2011. I mean, Barack Obama created DOGE, guys. Did you know that?
Here in Washington, in rooting out wasteful spending. At a time when families have had to cut back, have had to make some tough decisions about getting rid of things that they don't need in order to make the investments that they do.
Wow.
We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. Obviously, this is even more important given the deficits that we've inherited and that have grown as a consequence of this recession. This makes these efforts even more imperative. Now, this does mean making some tough choices. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there.
So anytime someone comes up to you and says, but DOGE is cutting all this waste and fraud, and they're doing it just because they want to make Elon Musk richer. Show them this. Show them that it was their savior, Barack Obama, that started this whole thing. Yeah. Okay, here is Secretary Brooke Rollins at the USDA. This is just 3 hours ago. Let's get an update on DOGE at the USDA.
61,000. Hi, everyone. It's Brooke Rollins again with another DOGE update. More wasteful spending at USDA. Just a few minutes ago, we terminated another grant. This one was $361,000 in New York City to support queer and trans farmers and urban consumers. As promised, we are working to end all waste, fraud, and abuse in this department today for all of you, but especially for our American farmers and ranchers and our ag community who deserve better. Thank you.
Wait, what did she say? She said this $361,000.
$361,000 in New York City to support queer and trans farmers and urban consumers.
Queer and trans farmers. Okay. I guess that's a thing. Meanwhile, White House announces more massive layoffs across multiple agencies. White House revealed plans to reduce staff across various federal agencies March 14th, 2025, citing budget constraints and shifting priorities. Let's listen in.
Just an audit. Tonight, the Pentagon is bracing for the intense scrutiny from Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The defense agency has never passed an audit. Think about that. Never passed an audit, and is notorious for contractor price gouging. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin takes a look tonight.
We welcome DOGE to the Pentagon.
Tasked with cutting 8% from the Defense Department's $850 billion budget, the first DOGE team members arrived last week at the Pentagon, which employs 3.7 million people and has never passed an audit.
I would put a big red bullseye on the process by which we manage weapon systems.
A system that hasn't been updated in decades.
The defense acquisition process is massively broken. The United States is issuing missile purchases through fax machines. It's using spreadsheets and data calls.
As a result, F-35 fifth-generation stealth fighter jets can't get out of depot because they're missing parts. The next-generation intercontinental ballistic missile, a key part of the nuclear triad, is $35 billion over budget. To get ahead of the DOGE team, the Navy is considering cutting its fleet of frigates, while the Army is looking for savings by eliminating outdated drones and surplus vehicles.
I, for one, as chairman of the Armed Services Committee, welcome DOGE coming into the Pentagon and helping us cut tape.
The Department of Government Inefficiencies is causing a reign of terror, chaos across the federal government.
Concern the DOGE team will move too fast was realized after it purged 2,000 federal workers from the Department of Energy, including 350 who oversaw the nation's nuclear arsenal, many working at the Pantex plant near Amarillo, Texas, reassembling nuclear warheads.
The administration then did an about-face last week and quickly tried to locate and rehire 350 Department of Energy employees overseeing the nukes. The Pentagon wants to avoid this kind of mistake by welcoming Elon's team and cooperating. Brett?
Oh, whoops. Looks like we pressed the wrong button on the firing. Who's going to get fired? Oh, man. Okay. Here we have Natalie Winters, Real America's Voice, outside the White House.
Grassroots is where the sort of grassroots Democrats are on this, right? If you look in the same way that our audience knows just how we hound our senators, our representatives, you're seeing the same exact thing go down now with the Democrat grassroots. For example, right, these groups that were organizing those town halls to oppose DOGE, groups like Indivisible, they have shepherded all their resources, they have rallied the troops, and they are descending not just upon Washington, but into these districts to really go, or I guess these states to go.
Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry, but I saw Tom in the background. Okay, look right. If on your screen, it would be on the right side of the screen. You see a little guy like holding up something. That's Tom. Holy cow, that's so funny. Watch.
Troops, and they are descending not just upon Washington, but into these districts to really go, or I guess these states, to go after these senators to make sure that they hold the line and basically force Trump into a shutdown. That is sort of the line, the angle of attack that they're taking. I want to put the pictures up on screen for you, Steve, though. Groups like Indivisible, particularly, they shut down, they're framing it through the lens of Musk or us. And they are now offering, they are reimbursing protesters, whether it's at town halls or wherever it may be, hundreds of dollars for daring to come out and criticize the Trump administration and just basically support these senators who are not going to potentially join that, gang of 8 and help avert a government shutdown. So is where the
Natalie Winters outside the White House, and Tom McCullough reporting right behind her. Here we have Jesse Waters. This is not your average breakup. Elon Musk caught Democrats censoring you, stealing from you, and now he's completely humiliating them.
Yourselves the better. I'm starting to realize these people might not have jobs, David. And I'm starting to realize they might be getting paid to protest. Mm-hmm. And Will Cain showed Open Society, Soros is funding it. And that's fine. I love it. The more you guys make fools of yourselves, the better it is for moi. A couple years ago, Musk was saving the planet. He was going to other planets, and he was in love with the Democrats. They were both in love. And then they had this horrible breakup. But Musk says he didn't change, they changed. He was always about free enterprise and free speech. They went full wacko. They tried to transition one of his kids. And then he buys Twitter and realized that they were censoring everybody. And then he sees Trump get shot. It kind of gives him a political awakening, and he goes all in. And Trump gets elected. He comes in, he wants to make the government more efficient at great expense to himself and his company, and finds out the Democrats are stealing from the government. So he caught him censoring you, and then he caught him stealing from you, and he's humiliated them. This is not your average breakup. This is like you hit him where it hurts. And now the Democrats don't have the emotional intelligence to kind of reconcile this breakup, so they just oppose everything in a blind rage. It makes no sense. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have made them support shutdowns. They're against peace. They're against green cars. They're against women. It's weird, and we're watching it unfold. Now they're supporting an anti-Semite. This is a guy, he's not even American. He comes here, he hates Jews, he blows up Colombia, cost them $400 million, and they're out there like this guy's Gandhi. And so have at it, left. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going, because you only expose yourself even more with every ridiculous action. And speaking of exposing yourself, here we have a nice little clip, a little montage, a throwback, kind of like what we saw with Obama. Schumer, Sanders, and Pelosi have been pro-DOGE for years. But now it's their pet projects that are on the chopping block.
Government, and I think yes, you do have to cut some programs. I think there's waste out there that I think there are.
So that's Bernie Sanders, 2011, March 3rd.
Yes, you do have to cut some programs. I think there's waste out there that I think there are programs that can and should be cut.
Again, we all agree we have to get rid of waste, fraud, abuse, duplication, obsolescence, and the rest.
Nancy Pelosi, March 15th, 2011.
Fraud, abuse, duplication, obsolescence, and the rest. The GAO has given us a blueprint for that, and we subscribe to that. We all agree that we must reduce the deficit.
There's tremendous waste in government, and I think
Chuck Schumer, April 8th, 2011.
any Democrat who ignores the lessons, the lessons of those who voted, the lessons of the last election, makes a mistake. The people did want government to cut out the waste and to shrink. Yes.
Oh, man. Oh, this doesn't like throwing their old comments back in their face, because the internet lives forever, doesn't it? Here we have now Caroline Levitt doubling down on fighting back. Let's talk about the absurdity.
A federal judge has ruled that tens of thousands of fired federal workers must be reinstated immediately. Okay, Karen, how are you going to fight that?
Well, let's talk about the absurdity of this, Stu. You have a single lower district court judge who ruled that all of these individuals need to be rehired, just usurping the executive authority of President Trump to fire federal workers. This cannot be allowed to happen. This ruling was unconstitutional. The White House and the Trump administration are prepared to fight back. And if you want to know how absurd this injunction was, just look at the numbers. In February alone, there have been 15 nationwide blocks of the Trump administration's agenda by these judges who are acting as judicial activists. Under Joe Biden, in 3 years, there were only 13 injunctions. In 3 years, in 1 month, we have had 15. You have a judicial system, these judges who are trying to have executive powers. If they want executive authority, they should run for president themselves. Everything this president is doing is within his executive power, and we are prepared to fight back.
A federal judge has...
So, yeah, what she's saying is exactly right. Separation of powers allows President Trump to manage the executive branch, and that's exactly what he's doing. And you have these activist judges coming in and trying to overrule the executive branch. That's an interference, and it's all going to get overthrown. But this is all designed to just kind of muck up the system, slow it down, and just try to generally block President Trump. What's this? The Dark Horse podcast? Not familiar with it. Musk helped get Trump elected. I think he may have been an easy error to make in Trump's mind. the coalition, whatever. Let's just see what they're saying here.
Enthusiasm for Trump. Musk helped get Trump elected, and I think it may have been an easy error to make in Trump's mind that the coalition that he was now involved with was him and Elon, as opposed to MAGA and Maha and the Unity Movement and almost all the disaffected Democrats. And, the Unity Movement is a giant tent, but there's so many people, the libertarians and the hippies and the, vaccine injured moms. And, so many people found either enthusiasm for Trump or, okay, not sure, but definitely the best option. And I'm really hopeful that he will do what he promised about Kennedy, do what he promised about Gabbard, put the people in whom he says he's aligned with and actually allow them to do some of the things that are really important to me.
And that's exactly what he's doing. Okay, we got some more to get to here. Let's see. Steve Bannon on the DOGE effort, actually interviewing with Gavin Newsom. You see, Gavin Newsom right now is positioning himself. He's starting a podcast and he's bringing on all of these, if you want to say right-wing conservative voices to have a conversation. And okay, that's fine. Have a conversation. Dialogue is good. But what I believe is that Newsom is clearly positioning himself, trying to truly understand the language of the right, so he can co-opt it when it's his turn to run for president in 2028. So be very careful when you see these interviews. And I'm happy that people like, Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon are going on these shows. It's fine. But I believe that Newsom's moves are way more calculated.
Big critic of also just even you saying something complimentary about Speaker Johnson. You've been pretty critical.
I've been very critical. I've been very, up until today, I've been very critical about, we're in this job because of overpromising and underperforming. And I think you got to, in leadership, I think now, and I think it's a long way from him being out of the woods, is that now because he's got 6 months now, he's got to deliver like a real budget with real cuts. Because just back for your audience, the DOGE effort is waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, they're kind of like shock troops or special forces, and people can either say they're great or whatever. I would like to see a little more definition of what they've actually found. Okay,
that would be, all of us would. Accountability, transparency. I agree with that.
More transparency, but that doesn't, to me, get to the meat of it, because I think you're going to have programmatic cuts, and I've been a big proponent that those programmatic cuts have to start in the Defense Department. I was a naval officer for 8 years. My daughter went to West Point. I'm not a dove, but I think I've been a big critic of we're at $1 trillion now. And that's one of the reasons of this post-war international rules-based order. We just can't continue on with NATO. We got to have allies that really pitch in here. But you got to start in the Defense Department. You have to do programs and billets to get the budget deficit to 3.5% of GDP, roughly under $1 trillion, so that we can start. So somehow we can begin to finance this, because right now that's the driver of inflation. Biden, they just restated their numbers from the fourth quarter. And traditionally, the Biden thing has always been, the labor number has always been different, right? It's been, one thing, and we've criticized that for a long time. This one, the shocker, and I don't think that, and I've said this, that the guys on the economic team did enough for President Trump of pushing this. The inflation number went from 2.2% to 4.2%. And it really didn't even get mentioned in the business press. And I said, that shows you the underlying kind of burning inflation. And the reason that is you have to finance now essentially a third of the debt every year. So you're talking, I don't know, $10, $12 trillion of government securities you have to sell at higher interest rates. That's what's driving inflation. Plus, I think a too loose Federal Reserve. So you had both a fiscal overspending and a monetary loose money. We've got an inflation problem that's not going to be easily solved. The way to solve inflation is you have to cut, I believe, federal spending dramatically. You have a Keynesian kind of stimulus all the time, and you have to do it. And that's going to lead to painful conversations.
Also, just even
painful conversations. We're watching them right there with Newsom and Bannon. But remember, Bannon's going into his audience. So Bannon has an opportunity to red pill a lot of those people. And then, of course, what happens on our side is we play these clips for you, and suddenly, like, Newsom seems like he's kind of a reasonable guy. but we cannot forget the radical policies that he has enforced and enacted in the state of California that has driven people out of that state. Okay, so as Newsom slowly starts to slither to the center, be very, very wary of what we're witnessing here. Okay, that's my take on what we're seeing. So I do applaud Bannon for going on the show to red pill these folks. Hopefully, a lot of people are actually waking up on the Newsom side. Here is Secretary Howard Lutnick reminding the European Union who's in charge.
And lumber. Let's just go over, take a step back, and let's go over the big picture. So Donald Trump has said there are 5 big industries that he wants to take care of: steel, aluminum, and copper, automobiles, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and lumber. And those 5 are really important to us for our national security, right? You need steel and aluminum. So when we put a steel and aluminum tariff, we need to teach the world, just let us rebuild. America needs to be in charge. Let us rebuild our steel and aluminum domestic production. And when we do that, tariffing our American whiskey, I mean, why is that credible? It seems illogical. So Donald Trump is just reminding the European Union who's in charge. Who do they run their big budget deficits with? Their trade deficits. They trade with us huge amounts. We buy their stuff all day, every day, and they need to respect Donald Trump, and he's going to teach them how to do that. Let's just go over to
Oh, he's teaching them all. Here we have the federal judge who blocked President Trump from firing bureaucrats and stripping Perkins Coie security clearances on tape, going on a crazy tirade against Trump. Oh, yeah. These people say it out in the open, and they have no shame.
He is having a very surprising and downright troubling moment in this country when the very importance of facts is dismissed or ignored. That's a very risky business for all of us and our democracy. The historian Heather Cox Richardson, whose book I've been reading, explains in her new book, which is a bestseller, so many of you may have already read it, Democracy Awakening, that burying facts with false history telling is one of the keys to the rise of authoritarianism. As she bluntly puts it, big lies are springboards for authoritarians. She cautions in her book's opening line, it's the very first line, America is at a crossroads, teetering on the brink of authoritarianism. And she echoes this thought in her closing line, that we are at a time of testing, and how it comes out resting, as it always has, is in our own hands. In between those 2 points, in the first line and the last, her book focuses on historical facts to set the record straight about recreated and imagined conspiratorial retellings of our country's history, recent and long ago. My DC judicial colleagues and I regularly see the impact of big lies at the sentencing of hundreds of individuals who have been convicted for offense conduct on January 6, 2021, when they disrupted the certification of the 2020 presidential election at the U.S. Capitol. As district court judges, we are all about the facts.
Wow, talk about revealing your intention. Oh, no. The Government Accountability Office found $661 billion in fraud. Holy cow.
$1 billion. We were just given the biggest financial news in my lifetime, and it seems like the mainstream media just doesn't give a fuck. $661 billion per year. 10% of our entire fucking budget. That's how much money they found was being spent every year on improper and fraudulent payments in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Oh, and before all you liberals freak out and say, oh, this is just more misinformation from Elon Musk, it wasn't DOGE that found this. No, it was the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, an organization that was founded in 1921. For those of you bad at math, that is 104 fucking years ago. They're the ones who published this report. And they recently finished their evaluation of payments given through Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. They'd been doing this investigation for about 2 years now. and they found $661 billion in fraud. Like I said, you got to understand, our annual budget is $6 trillion. Well, I mean, it's around $6 trillion. But that means that 10% of everything our government spends every year is fraud. 10% of our entire federal budget is either improper or fraudulent payments in just 3 programs. And the GAO says this has probably been going on for decades. You understand how bad that is, right? Like, if we could have eliminated that in the last 10 years, that could have eliminated almost 20% of all federal debt. 1/5 of all of our federal debt could have been gone through that. And like I said, it's not wild that we found this vast amount of fraud. Like, we figured that was happening. But the problem is, why is this not the biggest news across every fucking website? 10% of our annual budget is fucking fraud. This is a big fucking deal in the media.
Okay, all right, enough the F-bombs. We get your point. But we're trying to bring that point out for you. $661 billion in fraud. It is unbelievable. Here we have Elon, JP Morgan, the CEO, says Elon is our Einstein. Whoa.
Einstein. And so, I mean, you got to look at Elon. I mean, SpaceX. I mean, Tesla. You know, Neuralink. The guy is our Einstein. And so, and I like to be helpful to him and his company as much as we can. I think it is completely rational for someone to look at our government and say it's been ineffective. We deserve good government. And I don't think anyone thinks sending another $1 trillion to Washington, D.C. will lend to good government. So government needs to be more accountable. It needs to be more efficient. It should be outcomes-based. I mean, I say department by department, so I wish them the best. It's going to be complicated. As you know, the federal government's complicated. You read about all the people in it. And so, you know, if we could be helpful to them, and I'd love to be helpful to them.
Wow. Okay, here we have some more commentary. This one just says based.
Don't be a goddamn. My grandmother used to have a saying, it's all right to be a fool, but don't be a goddamn fool. You understand? When you keep saying, and stupid ass people like you, they keep saying, he's a felon. Peep gang. I'm going to put you up on some shit. You see all what him and Elon Musk is revealing, recovering, and exposing to the people? Of course the motherfucker would try to frame you, dumbass. Of course the motherfucker gonna put 91 charges on your motherfucking ass.
Okay, slow down, dude. We get it. All right. Here is Democrats are sadly choosing to fearmonger about DOGE because they don't want to give up their grift.
Canceled. It's about Marco Rubio was up early this morning, tweeting at about 4 a.m., saying that 83% of the USAID programs have been canceled. It's about 5,200 contracts. You know, I think for most everyday Americans, when they hear about these slashes at home, they wonder how that's going to impact them. How do you see this USAID slash impacting everyday Americans, ma'am?
I don't think it's going to affect everyday Americans. I really don't. I think Rubio has been very clear that life-saving aid is something that we're still focused on. But when you think about all the money that's been going for, transgendered operas in foreign countries, we scratch our heads on why are we spending taxpayer dollars on this? When you think about the monuments in Egypt and in Iraq that we've been funding, why are we spending U.S. dollars on this? And I think I'm grateful that we have a DOGE effort that's looking at why, where these American dollars are going. And again, I haven't heard people defending that. They've just been yelling at the messenger, not the message. And I would hope that all of us would get behind and see where these dollars are being wasted and say enough is enough.
Enough is enough indeed. So what we're witnessing is unprecedented. Elon Musk, once the darling of the progressive elite, now standing alongside President Trump to expose government corruption. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon calls Musk our Einstein and the left. Well, they're burning down Tesla showrooms. This isn't just political theater. It's a fundamental power shift. For decades, government has operated as a black box, taking in trillions and providing little accountability. Now, with DOGE uncovering $661 billion in fraud, the rats are scurrying. The media wants you to focus on personality and drama because they don't want you asking the most important question. If Musk and Trump can find hundreds of billions in waste in just weeks, how much more is still hidden? And who's been profiting from this corruption for decades? Drop a comment below. Show your support for government efficiency with our exclusive Mag Avengers gear in the Next News merch shop, linked down below. Mag Avengers t-shirt featuring Elon Musk and Ron Paul. We've also got a Mag Avengers hat and a Next News hat. That's how we identify each other on the road. See ya.